Welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. I'm your host, Coach Joe Lucas, and inside this episode, I want to talk about the power of the right peer group for financial advisors. But before we get into that, for those of you who don't know me, I've been coaching exclusively financial advisors now for over 32 years. In my career, I've worked with some of the most successful top barons, advisors, and teams. And this podcast slash YouTube channel is just kind of my way of creative outlet, if you will. But also, it's here to add value to each and every financial advisor. Actually, in the world, we have listeners from several countries and viewers, so I'm very grateful for that. And I know how valuable your time is, so let's just get into it. So I want to talk about peer groups, mastermind groups, why I believe they're critical for an advisor's success. Now, why do I believe that? Because I run them, and this is not a pitch for me, but I want to give you a framework on why I think every advisor needs to be involved in a mastermind group, a peer group. I know in the insurance world, I'll call them study groups. It's the same principle. A gathering of like-minded individuals to collaborate. Okay, that's really what this is all about. Why is that important? Because the power of association, what every study, going back to even Napoleon Hill, basically now almost 100 years ago, when he wrote his book, Think and Grow Rich, and in there's a chapter called The Power of the Mastermind, is that when you put like-minded people together, 1 plus 1 equals 3, 5 minds equal 10, and you just get the synergies. And I've facilitated these for decades now. And there's something about, and again, live or virtual, there's something about being in a group of like-minded advisors discussing issues. Like, what issues will we discuss? So, luckily, and this is what prompted this conversation in this episode. Uh, my live tribes, I have three of them. We meet twice a year, like in person. We get together, world-class places, uh, 2 days each. And so we just got off of a cycle. We got off our winter cycle, and we hosted in Winter Park, Florida. And I can tell you that especially when a new person comes, somebody's not experienced this before, and they spend 2 days, with like-minded individuals, problem solving, troubleshooting, brainstorming. It's the results are fascinating, quite frankly, and beyond compare. Now, what gets discussed in something? Well, I can only tell you what goes on in my rooms. Okay, so in my rooms, if I had to kind of break it up, I'm going to say business development shows up, of course, like how to growth and scaling. People, how do we identify talent? How do I identify talent? Retain talent, and then and also develop talent, right? So identify, develop, and retain. That's a big one. Our industry has a massive talent shortage. And if you don't think your people are being propositioned by recruiters, you're naive. You just are. Then we talk about practice management, tech. We talk about leadership, psychology, and everybody adds, everybody gets, and it's a powerful thing. You are who you associate with. There's a lot of, if you can just Google, I guess you can do some chat GTP AI if you like. Associations matter. Who you hang out with, who you get your information from, who you spend time with. And I put people, and I'll share a story. So in my iteration from Coach Joe 1.0 to 2.0, which was almost 10 years ago now, one of the things that I had a harsh look on, and I get a lot of feedback on this sometimes, is I put every one of my personal relationships. So talk about friends and like distant family, but mostly friends. I put them into 3 boxes. I categorize them. They give me energy, they're neutral, or they suck the energy out of me. They're not gonna help me grow. And this is gonna sound harsh, but I cut them off all the ones that were in the 3rd box, like the ones that were not gonna help me scale, were, going nowhere, were negative people, caught up in gossip and everything else that not gonna help anybody. And most of these people were the ones I played golf with, quite frankly, my golf buddies. Um, I like just stopped answering texts. I stopped showing up at the course, and I just ghosted everybody. And some of these people I had known for 20 years because I made a decision that I needed to upgrade who I hang with, who I associate with. So one of the things for me, and I've been a part of other mastermind groups that meet, right? The one I think of was Bo Eason's group. We did that for a year, my wife and I. I think that was $65,000 for the year for both of us, plus travel. And the good groups, there's an investment. Like, don't think you're gonna like show up for like, oh, just gonna pay Dutch. I mean, you could do that, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But if you want something like highly curated, no, you're gonna invest 5 figures in that annually, and you should. I'm not saying it has to be mine, but think about going somewhere a couple times a year out of your day-to-day environment to nice, beautiful environments, and we do things in really beautiful places to work on your business, to work on yourself. If you're leading a team, like, if you have a level of success, it's the old saying, "It's lonely at the top," right? It just is. My Empire group, which is my, second newest group, we put them together well, we baited it back right before COVID, so I guess that's 2019, and we didn't launch it till the fall of 2021. They're pretty much all billion-dollar team and enterprise leaders, multiple billion dollars in a lot of cases. What's funny about that room? And there's 12, maybe 13 now, depending if we, say yes to another applicant. They don't talk about getting business. You know what they talk about? Retaining talent, who gets equity, buyouts, scaling, M&A marketplace. It's very different like, you wouldn't know they don't talk like typical advisors because none of them really are advisors anymore. They're CEOs, they're leaders. Very interesting, very powerful room. Lot of alphas that I gotta corral. I love it. And for me, I learn as a facilitator. I mean, I contribute, don't get me wrong, but man, just to see the kind of conversations, and we have NDAs and all over that room because of what goes on in there. It's a powerful room. Nobody else does what I do in that side of that room. Like, nobody else has what I have there. It's powerful. And I've watched, and I can share this with you guys because, and again, I think there's ways to accomplish this, but I'll get to in a moment. But amongst I have 3 live groups and 3 virtual groups. So the live groups are very interesting. The first group, my elite group, they've been together since 2007, 2006. The core members, some of them been there almost 20 years. Think about that, 20 years. They're friends. They've gone to weddings, anniversaries. I mean, it's just beautiful to watch great people collaborate, and I get a ringside seat at that. Now, most of you are advisors who listen to me and watch this show, so I'm gonna give you some ideas. Number 1, I really like the idea of you creating your own. Now, does that mean I want you to create, a mastermind with other advisors? Not necessarily. I think there's limited I mean, you could do that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I'm gonna give you a better idea, okay? I would love you to locally go to, maybe 2 other people. So let's talk about how to build these. You don't need to recruit 12 people or 11 people. This is not like the apostles, okay? You can find 2 other people that you can meet with once a month locally, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you think is really appropriate. You start with 3. Why? Because you can self-facilitate that. Not a big deal, right? 3 of you get together. And by the way, this is not BNI. This is not pro advisor. This is not like a networking group. Okay, it's a mastermind. It's different. And then, I would say maybe get it up to maybe 5, maybe 7 tops. You start getting larger, you start needing more facilitation help, and that gets clunky. And it's not about the numbers, it's about finding the right people. So who are the right people? So if I was gonna if you had consulted with me, and I'm gonna give it to you here anyway. So here's what I want you to do. Like, go find and this is gonna serve 2 purposes, so just bear with me. I would love you to find the following locally: a CPA who gets it, and I have to say it that way, an attorney who gets it, a business coach who gets it, an executive coach who gets it. I would start with 4 of those, right? And when I say get it, they're success driven, they're sharers, they're like-minded, and they're into it, right? And then there's 5. Now, why did I rattle off those 4 names? Because even though it's not a leads club or a referral network, guess what? You get to know each other really well. I mean, there's a lot of deep sharing. The byproduct, I'm not making, and by the way, I'm not making this the business case, but the byproduct is there'll be business done. There'll be referrals given because of the certainty, the comfort, the getting to know each other. But that is not the premise. That's why I use the word byproduct. It is not the core product. And we want to be very, very super clear on that. Okay. So that's what I like. And I think every one of you should have your own locally in your marketplace to build out. And there's an advantage to being the founder slash leader of the group because you get to drive it. You get to pick. Right. Now, what's the economic model? I've seen 2 economic models and they both work fine. The easiest one is everybody gets together, you get a room somewhere at a restaurant or diner or whatever, and everybody pays their way, split the check, whatever, tip the people well, and you're done. And that's fine. Do not meet at each other's offices. Here's why: distractions. Easy for the person who's hosting to get tied up. It's their day-to-day environment. You do not want to do these in your day-to-day environment. Okay, you do not. And that's super critical. Um, Before I moved to Florida back in 2000, so this is like 1997 probably. I met a gentleman at a chamber event. His name was Bill Foster. He had just retired from Citigroup. He was he reported directly to the CEO, and he went into business executive coaching. I met Bill, and let's see, at the time I was probably 30. Let's see, 97. Yeah, I was probably 31, 32. Take it back, 30, 33, 34. And Bill's probably early 60s at that point. So 30 years my senior. And he invited me to, he said, look, we have a mastermind group. It's like 4 guys. We'd like to have a 5th. And we all agreed we want a young person because we all want to mentor. And he picked me. He could have picked anybody. He chose me. So I spent 3 years in that group, and we met the 3rd Thursday, 6 p.m. at the AT&T School of Business in I think Bedminster, Basking Ridge. I forget what town it was in New Jersey. Dutch. Everybody paid their way. One of the members had access to it. Those 3 years were my MBA slash PhD in success in people in getting things done. And there's a few things I miss about New Jersey: the food and that group. Because when I left that group, I've not been able to replicate it for myself here, because I really haven't tried, quite frankly, because I just like that was so special to me. Now, all the members have passed away, and that's sad, but they took a decade or 2 off my development. That's what the right group can do for you. So, what I'd love to see everybody do who watches or listen, or whether you're watching or listening to me, is in 2026 make a commitment to either get in a group or to build a group. Okay? You need to bounce ideas off people. No human being's an island, and there's a lot of islands out there. There are other coaches that run groups. You can check in with them. Totally cool with that. But you need to find a place. Why else is this important? You want to have a tribe of brothers and sisters who have your back. So I can tell you how we run ours. Again, live virtual, we meet regularly. The virtual groups meet every month. The live groups meet twice a year live. And then there's monthly meetups. We have our own private board to share ideas. We have a text. Every group has a text thread. So, and those are the most as fast. I mean, like we did as a couple of years ago, just for an event, and those things are still living, and everybody uses them every day. Checking in, it's just fascinating to watch. And I don't care if you're in a branch with like 50 advisors, it's still a lonely game. Success is lonely, and not everybody's like-minded, right? Do you look to people around you as colleagues or competitors, or maybe a little bit of both? Right, all that matters. I can tell you that you know what's good about a group, the right group, is it's a bit humbling because there are people that have accomplished things that you did not, and you want to learn. So, what makes a great group? I guess we should talk about that. Um, when I build a group, I'm looking to thread a needle basically. So my groups are highly curated, and what I mean by that is you just can't join. You gotta go through a interview process. You're going to guest at a meeting to see if you like them or you like the tribe and the tribe likes you, and then you might be offered a seat. What I do is I want people that are common enough to get along, but different enough to be interesting. So I don't want a bunch of the same, right? There's no like you get groupthink. And that's why, like, what I'm saying here is for you to go out and get that CPA, get that attorney, get that business coach, get that executive coach, right? If you don't get a realtor in there, that's fine. If you want to go, it's fine. What I care about the right people, right? I don't really care what's on their business card. I just want to, I wouldn't want to bring my colleagues in. There's not. I think a lot of times when I've seen this, when I've done like pop ups, and I used to go around the country and do like these 1 day masterminds, and members of the Magellan Network could grab a chair. Sometimes there's this scarcity mindset, and people don't want to share their kind of secret sauce, even though there's nothing really secret out there. So that can kind of get in the way. That's why I don't recommend getting colleagues in your local groups. I think you want to bring in other people that, and again, that can serve also as a referral source. That's a plus. That's just an added benefit, quite frankly. um, Rules. So if you're going to build your own, what I'd recommend you do is, and again, there's no like perfect. Well, should we do breakfast, Joe? Should we do lunch? Should we do dinner? It's kind of up to the group. I mean, the group that I joined, Bill Foster invited me to, was a dinner group because everybody's doing their jam, and it was once a month, it's a couple hours, not the end of the world. It was like 6 to 8, 2 hours. I mean, if you get 3 or 4 of you together, 2 hours should get everything done. Everybody gets 15, 20 minutes. Go around the table, share, ask questions, request help, all those things. And then the members know, and then if somebody's got something, you always get on a phone. Back then it was a phone call, there was no Zoom. You get on a phone call and you have a conversation, right? That's just the way it works. And that's valuable. So I think that would be good, for everybody to do that and just keep it simple. I will tell you also, at least in my experiences, like I just launched a group 3 years ago, Empire X. And that group has taken probably about 2 years to settle. What I mean by that is people come in, they try it, they're not committed to it, exit them out, new people come in. So a lot of times, like, you don't think like the initial team is going to be the team. I think a lot of people are surprised by that. People sometimes, they get tired of it, or their situation changes, and be okay with that. Be okay with that. I keep waiting lists for mine, just because I never want to feel. And again, it's part of my business model. So my approach is gonna be different than what I'm saying here. But I want the right people, and I think that's critical. So take a look, and then if you're so interested, and then you can go look for a third party, peer group. Like, so I run them. I want to say Pareto runs them. I think a couple of the coaches run theirs too, and you got to find the one that makes sense to you. Quite frankly, I'm never going to sit here and make this a pitch about what I do. There are a lot of great coaches out there who do similar to what I do. They have a different approach. So well, whatever you resonate with is cool, right? I'm fine with that. But with that said, I do think you need to be involved in something. I do think you need a place, whether it's virtual or live, to go and work on your business and work on yourself and get advice and guidance from somebody who's done it and those who are doing it. I think that's critically important. All right. So that is your challenge for this episode. So again, I want to thank you all for listening and watching this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Again, if you're consuming this on podcasts, make sure you're subscribed and leave us a review. That's very, very helpful. If you're consuming this on YouTube, again, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. And please forward this episode to people that you think would find value. If you want information about what I do, it's coachjoe.guru, Guru. And if you want to check out our mastermind groups, Magellan Mastermind, just Google that and it'll take you to our mastermind page. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of the Magellan Network Show. See you all again in 7 days.